In this week's video, I want to talk about some new additions to my luggage and carry-on for my travel photography kit. If you've seen some of my older videos in the past month, you'll know that I had a long trip to Japan and Korea a couple of months ago, where I definitely learned what I could take out of my travel setup to make it more efficient and what I would need to buy and add to my travel setup for my next trip. And I want to talk about those items in this video. So before I hold you any longer and waste your time, here are the 3 items that I added and why I decided to add them to my luggage. The first item that I want to talk about is the Peak Design travel tripod that I got right after my trip ended. One thing that I want to say immediately about this addition though is that the tripod that I'll be replacing, the Tsuyu ST125 carbon fiber tripod, was and still is a great tripod and I have absolutely no problems with it whatsoever. It is anything and everything the Peak Design travel tripod can do, but it's way cheaper. With that being said though, some of you may be questioning why I even bought the Peak Design travel tripod. And well, yeah, that makes sense. But here are a few reasons why I decided to move on to the Peak Design travel tripod. The first one is the price, which is kind of ironic considering its market price. But luckily, I was able to find the Peak Design travel tripod on sale for a really good price, which made me jump on the offer and buy it. Without the sale though, I definitely wouldn't have even thought about buying it, as the tripod at its normal price at around $600 is just insane. The second reason has to do with the tripod itself. If you compare both the Tsuyu ST125 and the Peak Design travel tripod, the Peak Design travel tripod definitely wins as the most compact and thin tripod out of the two, which for me is very important as it saves me space whether I decide to put the tripod in the outer pocket of my Peak Design travel backpack or in my Peak Design travel backpack itself. Those two are the main reasons why switching was even a thought in my head. There are a couple of other things about the Peak Design travel tripod that definitely enhance my quality of life in photographing, such as being easier and faster to set up compared to the Tsuyu ST125, but they really had no impact on me moving towards the tripod itself. The second item I'll be bringing along with me on my trips from now on is this lens skirt that I got from Amazon. During my trip to Japan and Korea in 2022, I brought this big ass lens skirt right here to some of the observatories I visited, and honestly, it was just too big to carry around. Don't get me wrong, it worked when I did use it, but I definitely did not enjoy using it because of its size, which led me to not really using it at all during my trip. So then going on to my most recent trip in 2023, I decided to just go without one and see what would happen. And it went well, surprisingly. When I did go to observatories, I was able to make do with the gear I had and was able to get shots I was happy with. But there were a couple of moments there where I just wouldn't be able to get the shot that I wanted because there was just no way to get the reflections out of the frame. And that's what this lens skirt is for. I'm hoping that with its small size, it will be way easier to bring compared to my old big ass lens skirt that I just showed you. And even if it is shitty, it hopefully can't be as bad as not having one at all, and I can resort to some natural tactics as well as post-processing tactics to be able to get rid of the reflections that this lens skirt might not be able to get rid of. And I say might because unfortunately, I just haven't gotten the chance to really use and test the lens skirt out in the field, as observatories with views like the cities that I've been to aren't exactly the most common in LA. So when I do get the chance to test it out in the field, I'll let you know what my thoughts are on it. So be sure to look out for that if you're curious. The third and final item I'll be adding to my travel setup actually isn't photography related at all in terms of camera and gear and such, but I definitely bought it with photography in mind. They are these pair of shoes right here, the Nike Pegasus Trail 4 Gore-Tex. I didn't realize my need for them even though I should have from past experience, but during my trip, it didn't really rain much until my first week in Tokyo when there were a couple of days in a row with just straight rain. And because I love taking photos in the rain, that whole time I would go out and just enjoy photographing rainy Tokyo. But with that came the dreaded wet shoe, wet sock problem. When it rains here in LA, which is like, almost never, but when it does magically rain here in LA, my socks don't really get wet because the rain is just never that heavy. And during the few times where it actually is somewhat heavy, I can just wear my rain boots and call it a day. But when traveling, because I really want to limit what I bring, I want a pair of shoes that can do everything. An everyday shoe that's comfortable, a pair of shoes that I can take in the rain, a pair of shoes that I can hike in, and so on and so forth. And this shoe has definitely checked a lot of those boxes right there. It also helps that the shoe isn't a complete abomination to the eyes as well, but that's another subject for another day. Unlike the lens skirt that I just talked about, luckily I was able to test these shoes out as it rained pretty heavy a couple of days ago here in LA, and I got to test the waterproofness of these shoes, even purposely walking in the puddles to really see if it was really waterproof, and to my surprise it was. I didn't have any kind of dampness or any feeling of my socks being wet during my 2-hour walk around downtown LA. And to top that off, during my walk, the shoe was super comfortable. I felt like I could have easily walked for another 2 hours and not have my legs and feet die on me. like I've definitely experienced with other pair of shoes. As you've never thought about shoes being important for photography, just try wearing a shitty pair of shoes and going for a 4-mile walk or hike, and let me know how you feel after. I can't vouch for how it works as a hiking shoe, but I basically did all my walking and hiking in Korea and Japan with a pair of Adidas Ultra Boost. So in my mind, if I can do that with those pair of shoes, I'll be fine with these pair of shoes. These are the items I'll be adding to my luggage and setup when traveling and taking photos. As of right now, I can't really think of anything else to make my travel setup more efficient for long-term traveling. But changes like that aren't really obvious until I can actually test it out in the field when traveling and notice those inefficiencies in real time. So when I do make those changes, I'll definitely make another video and let y'all know. I'll also make another video about my updated travel setup whenever I do another long-term trip in the future. So if you're interested in that, please like this video and subscribe. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed and were able to get some ideas for your own travel setup. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Later.